We're back. We back on another exciting episode of Starfleet So Hail, where we have a casual and informal conversation about all the things Star Trek. And today we're talking about Star Trek, the state of Star Trek, and we're also having a conversation later. It depends how you want to do it, Toddy. We might segment it and do state of Star Trek first, and then do Star Trek and AI second, or we can just talk about it all. It doesn't matter.
Go with the flow. I don't
Go
care.
with the flow.
What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Do you want to cut it in two and have two streams? Have people disembark and re-embark on the next show?
No. Well, it's like we'll just half of it'll be that. I wonder if I can move us. Oh, this is weird.
Well, you move me. I'll tell you that.
I know I moved you to, but I wondered if I could move us so that our circles are also on our faces. But
That's
okay.
right. I'm a circle. Remember Google circles?
I do remember Google circles.
You're the only person in the world that remembers it.
Toddy, it's so good to talk to you. It's been like 10 million years since we've been together.
10 million years.
It feels like a long time.
I'm a square. I am now a square.
Now we're back.
I'm a rectangle now.
I'm doing this because it just feels more, I don't know.
Yeah. Circles, you didn't like him. Didn't feel okay.
No one likes circles because I think Google canceled it.
Hey.
So catch up me and the audience as to your whereabouts. Like, where are you? Like in the Gamma Quadrant, or what's where's Trek on the Tube been? What have you been
I have
up to?
moved to Alpha Centauri, believe it or not. It's great. The weather's fantastic. All of the governments are not corrupt. They're very kind. They take care of their people. It's a great place to be.
Wow. I want to move there too. Let's go. All of us. Let's all move to Alpha Centauri. Do you have space in your...
I know, right? There are 17 genders. No one fights about it. And all of the bathrooms is just one at a time. You know what I mean? It's easy.
One at a time?
Well, one goes...
I hope there's like a lot of bathrooms. Like...
Well, I mean, they're special people. They only go once a day, which makes things easier. Fair enough.
Damn, those Alpha Centaurians.
It's great.
Isn't Alpha Centauri... What's the one from Project Hail Mary? Where were they? Was it Alpha Centauri?
I haven't seen that yet. Apparently, it's the thing to see, and I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen a lot.
I'm behind on Star Trek, but on things that are not Star Trek, I'm quite behind. Like even like one battle after another, I was told it's great. Like,
it's good. Yeah, I saw that. What else?
Things that I haven't seen.
What else haven't you seen?
What else haven't I seen? I don't know.
Are you gonna go watch Masters of the Universe?
No, I won't be watching that. No, I'm sorry.
It was kind of okay. It was good. You should watch it on streaming.
I don't care enough about. I've never cared about that, and so I kind of.
You didn't have He-Man when you were a kid.
No. No.
That's okay. You'll never know.
I did like the new Dungeons and Dragons one though. I thought that was fun. You know what I mean? It was quirky and I thought they had. They're
the guys making the next Star Trek movie, right?
Well, as of the latest announcement, but I have a list of the 17,000 projects that have been greenlit and canceled.
That's true.
Hello, everyone. I am back today. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to say hello to the audience. I don't know how many people there are, but hello to.
I think right now there's 4 people watching. 2 of them might be you and me, and then Uncle Art's here. So
I'm not watching.
Oh, good. Then there's 3 legit.
I'm not trying to.
There's 3 legit. There's 3 legit people. So welcome, and if you're in the audience, feel free to say hello in the chat and share your thoughts. Toddy, you mentioned that you're not caught up on Star Trek. Where did you leave off?
I haven't seen the latest of Strange New Worlds. I think there's a season 3 of Strange New Worlds, right? That's out.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen Starfleet Academy yet.
Did you finish Discovery?
Yes, I have finished Discovery.
You're making progress. What about Lower Decks?
Well, I finished Lower Decks, and I've
Okay.
rewatched a few Lower Decks. I have fun with Lower Decks.
We're Joel, who's in the audience right now, and I are continuing that we're finally after 81 weeks finishing our Lower Decks discussions for the last season. So catch those when you get a chance to. Maybe you can come on an episode or 2 now that you might get some practice, some more practice streaming.
Mm, mm.
But
I was
who's
I this was supposed to be the year where I started streaming. I had it all planned. I didn't announce anything too big, but I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go back on a stream once a week, da, da, da. But you know, life is full of life. So sometimes you just can't stream. You know what I mean?
or to quote Star Trek, life itself.
Well, indeed.
Well, let me catch you up on some of the news. You might already know this, but maybe audience and Toddy, let's get some of your thoughts. So, just so you know, Alex Kurtzman's CBS contract runs out at the end of this year. Renewal talks technically are still open, so we don't know for sure
Ooh.
if this is the end of the. I actually have like papers just like on the Daily Show today. I'm doing it.
Oh my God, my man! What? That's crazy. He's
But I'm
prepared.
nowhere
Shit.
near as charismatic and cool as Jon Stewart, so maybe you are, but
I
I'm certain,
disagree. I
I'm
disagree.
more of a John Oliver, but without the charisma also.
I
So.
completely disagree. John Oliver looks like an asparagus. You're great. I
Oh,
love you.
I'm sure John Oliver will take umbrage to that if he ever
That's
watches
a
this.
good joke. Come on, he would appreciate that. Excuse
Uh,
me.
Starfleet Academy ends with season two. I should put up our little banner because we're talking
Hold
about.
on.
Yeah,
Only season one has been released, correct?
correct.
Okay, you can carry on.
Okay. So Starfleet. Look, I have banners too. I'm very organized. If Jill
Oh
were in
my
the audience, she'd
God.
be like very impressed.
Right?
Um,
Should love this.
Starfleet Academy ends with season two, and that is the last known Kurtzman era production to wrap. Strange New Worlds confirmed to end with a shortened season five. You already knew that, I think. I think we
I
talked
knew
about that.
that, but I thought they were going to. I thought Star Trek Academy was going to be released before Strange New Worlds. They're going to finish with Strange New Worlds.
I believe so.
Oh, sorry. No, they're going to finish with Star Trek Academy. Like that's the
No,
last thing that they're going to release.
no, because I think the next season, or the final season, well, it's not planned, but the next season, which is the final season of Starfleet Academy, will come out next year. Strange New
Okay.
Worlds is coming out with season four, and then they have a season five coming out as well. So there's two
Okay.
more seasons of Strange New
Okay.
Worlds.
Okay. Okay.
And then let's see what else. There's a rumor that Skydance will hard reset, and that there will be a possible new film trilogy that
Yes.
sidelines Kurtzman's canon, but that's
Boom.
unconfirmed. I know.
Ooh.
And then, well, yeah. So the era is winding down.
So, what do you want to talk about? How do you want to address this?
Let's do the state of Star Trek first.
The state of
Uh,
Star Trek?
yeah, state of Star Trek. I think that's a good way
Can we
to.
can we talk about the final statement that you just made?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I want to talk about that. Okay. So there's a film in development by Skydance,
yeah,
supposedly, right?
yeah.
And it's helmed by the D&D writers, or the ones that whatever Among Thieves or whatever it is that just came out, the latest D&D.
Right.
And so they talk about so you say words like it's going to sidestep Kurtzman's canon or whatever that is.
Yeah, or it's just going to reboot. I think that was the quote I wrote down, but really, I think it's just going to reboot Star Trek, like clean
Well,
reboot, like new
okay.
continuity.
Realistically, that's not going to happen, and that's never going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to say that they're going to reboot it, and then they're going to backtrack in 6 or 7 years and say, "Oh, hey, no, it's all connected. We went through a wormhole."
Hmm.
Because that, you know what? No, I mean, you know what I mean. That's that
You mean
they're gonna. There's
like
some kind of MacGuffin ex machina, Deus ex, thing that, and it's gonna be like, ah, no, whatever. Genre, you know, it's
interesting?
all the same. It's all
Or
connected.
they're saying, I think one of the rumors I remember reading was that this would take place as kind of even before somewhere. It would take place in a new kind of original series thing, but not related to the original series. So I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I guess like Discovery did that. So I'm not sure. Yeah, really, honestly, there's not a lot of information. Maybe someone in the audience has more up to date information than I was able to gather in a few hours that I did their research. But um, let's go ahead and start by talking about the state of Star Trek overall. I think it would do us good to review kind of the previous eras, all the eras of Star Trek, right? So we have, let's see what it says here. Oh, as much as you want. go, go hard, Toddy.
Okay, okay.
I'm not saying what Toddy wrote to me, but I'm just saying that
I haven't been around for a
the
while,
answer is
so
go hard.
I have questions. So
Go hard, Toddy. It's okay. Hardcore. No, I'm just kidding.
also, I am a guest on this channel, so you know what I mean. I don't want to
No, I
break this
appreciate it.
channel either.
This is the After Dark channel, so we're on the After Dark one. Like I only do the discussions on the
Is
main
this my
channel.
first time on After Dark?
No, you've been on it before.
I've been on
Because
it
that's where
before.
we
Okay.
do our Lord of the Rings discussion. This is like the
Oh,
all
okay.
channel is what I should call
Okay.
it.
Okay. Okay.
Art says, I have a Strange New Worlds leather jacket and pair of boots, and I'm too large for both. I feel your pain. Mm. Oh, that's
This is because
talking to
Joel
Joel,
doesn't
yeah.
fit. So you guys should swap.
That happens, by the way. I've ordered costumes before, and the sizes never match, like,
Outrageous.
what they say. And I
You need to
think it's
get your
because in Asia, people are smaller. Even extra large is, like, smaller than an extra large here. Toddy just froze. I hope he comes back. I don't know if I froze or if Toddy froze. I can never tell. Oh, it was you who froze. Did I freeze
I
or did
think
you freeze?
I think it was me. I think it was
Okay.
me. There's all kinds of there's wormholes and subspace interference. I would say that the best way to get a good Star Trek fit is to get it tailor made. But
Hmm. That's a little harder to do.
that takes a big budget.
That's why I'm learning how to sew. I want to make my own monster maroon. Get the
Goddamn.
materials and do it. Yeah, my mom's teaching me. It's very cool, but she's
I'm gonna
not very
commission a
patient.
guy in a hat.
I have one somewhere that could be like a guy in a hat. So first, let's review the first era. The original era of Star Trek was the Roddenberry era, and generally, it's thought of as being optimistic, heavy emphasis on exploration. Humanity has matured in this vision, if you will, and it was like entertainment, but it was also very subversive in the sense that Roddenberry and the writers were able to make a lot of social commentary under the guise of aliens and things like that. So that would be from 1966 to 1991. Do you agree with that assessment? What do you think of the? How do you feel about the Roddenberry era?
Um, I think we would refer to it as classic era now, right?
Hmm.
And so you have it till 1991, which is the end of what show there?
That would have been Star Trek Six, I think, is when he. So part of TNG and Star Trek
So
Six
yeah, you okay?
till his
So yeah,
death, basically. He died in 91.
okay. So you're really considering like the beginning of TNG still Roddenberry. It's not
Yeah,
like Berman
especially
hasn't taken over. Okay.
yeah, I would say it's like a crossfade, like when you know what I mean, like in music, right? When you fade from one song to the other, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
his era kind of fades into. I think even Berman says that his initial intent was to always kind of uphold Gene's vision, and I think that's where that expression comes from too, Gene's
So
vision. So
what does that make that moment where Kurtzman take over? Is that like is that like a drum fill, and then he just takes over, like musically?
maybe, well, but the Berman era,
No, I would agree with you on your Roddenberry era kind of assessment. I think that's what generally people would call the classic era of Star Trek. You have the original show with the animated series in there that some people forget, but then there's the original kind of cast movies.
right?
Yeah.
And it's actually thought of to this day. People are fans who, especially were around in that era. That's like kind of their gold standard of what they want Star Trek to be. I think everything's compared to kind of that era, and then the Berman era. Let me pull up a little card here.
So this is the most, I think, I don't know if it's the most marketable, but it is at least the most marketed of eras. Like they sell merch for the original series all the time. They haven't stopped selling merch for this. I think it's probably the most profitable out there, and I don't know too
And
much
aside
about
from
like.
that, I think also just the most in the culture, like in the cultural zeitgeist,
Yes,
like
I
everyone.
think that
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think that in terms of pop culture, people will mistakenly say Dr. Spock, but people will, they will say Spock, you know what I mean, and Kirk, and that's who comes to mind, I think, kind of primarily.
Yeah, I agree. Then we have the Berman era, and you see I did the overlap. So 1987 to 2005. I think the words I wrote down were expanding on Gene's vision, uh, continuing and expanding on the continuity that he established,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of moral storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of world building,
Yes.
and I think the one I didn't put a criticism down for Gene's era, even though there are plenty. But the main criticism I think people kind of voice is that it became there was formula fatigue. You know what I mean? Like it's just like after by the time Star Trek, by the time Enterprise came down, it was just like, okay, this is like the same show. It's just like redressed. It's the same stories. In fact, like the kind of
Yeah.
same similar kind of stories, and so so it ended kind of in a whimper, if you will. Because you know Enterprise got canceled, and then there was this like long period. Now, I didn't include the films, J.J. Abrams' revival of Star Trek, although I do think that that's definitely a kind of a pivotal, the comeback, right? When was that? It was like 2009.
9.
Yeah. So I did not include that, but really, I guess you could call it like a mini era, or you could include it maybe in the Kurtzman era if you want to, because Kurtzman was a part of that little group. But before we move on from the Berman era, do you agree? And what do you?
It's a production incursion.
Very good. Do you agree? What do you think
I
of
agree.
that?
I was going to say lore building, but you said world building, which is essentially the same thing. But I agree with the assessment. I think that like Berman really took Berman and team. Let's not give all credit to the man.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
there
That's
was
why I
a
tend to
great number
like
of people.
I like to call it
Yeah.
like the by the ship, I guess. So I call it the TOS era, the TNG era, and now the Discovery era. That's how I
So
refer to it.
I am quote unquote here guilty of doing the same thing as you. I will call it,
By the
Roddenberry,
producer.
Berman,
Yeah.
Kurtzman. But of course, that doesn't like that's it's just a name. You know what I mean? I just name it that for simplicity's sake. In no way am I trying to take away credit from the people that were behind it, because I think we all know that the people behind the production of Deep Space Nine were very much to thank for the way that Deep Space Nine came out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but anyway, but no, I think that yes, in the Bowman era, a lot of people did a lot of hard work at world building, but I also think they did a lot of work in terms of course correcting, um, and kind of whole patching. You know what I mean? Like they were filling in blanks. They were trying to figure out like what was going on and trying to make everything connect. They were trying to explain things because ultimately, and I think we've talked about this many many times. Um, Canon, or the I guess the reality of the world in which like the universe that you're following is
Right.
evolving.
Canon and
Um,
continuity. Right.
Canon and continuity, although it can be changed and modified and shifted in any which way. It's nice when there's, I guess, some sort of coherence to it, and it adds to the reality of the world, right? And it adds to the experience. And I think they did a lot in terms of that. Yes, the man had his flaws, and those shows had their flaws as well. But I think in terms of world building, they did a lot.
Yeah, I would
And
agree
what was
with
the
that.
what was the other thing you said? You talked about, yes, the formula.
The
I
formula
think
fatigue is what kind of I
I would
think
agree with
ended the
I would
era.
agree with that. Let's not take away from Enterprise that it was like the most downloaded show, the illegally pirated
Oh, it
show.
was. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was breaking records for being like the most illegally pirated show. So people weren't watching it on TV, but they were
Hmm.
most definitely downloading it illegally. So I mean, it
And both
kind of
Voyager and Enterprise have had great revivals in this modern streaming
yes,
age. Like Voyager,
Voyager's
especially.
by far doing the best in the streaming era. I think that Voyager does a lot for like female empowerment and female characters on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise not so much. Um, but um, but yeah, no, I think that there was a moment where they weren't taking many risks. And I think when they started changing things up a lot with Deep Space Nine, and doing really like the season long kind of arcs and the big stories with the big kind of world building about the war, that's when I think a lot of people love the show and it resonates with people. And then also in season 4 of Enterprise, when they were doing kind of smaller arcs, 3-4 episodes that connected to each other and dealt upon like one special topic, you know what I mean? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what really um resonated with people too.
Right. I like what Joel says here. It should be like ancient Egyptian history: Old Kingdom, first intermediary period; Middle Kingdom, second intermediary period; New Kingdom, third intermediary period. Intermediary, I can't say that word. And then whisks are our business. Whisks used to be Toddy's business, but
I I do very true. I do like the idea of the ancient Egyptian history, or like the paleontology eras. You know what I mean? Like
hmm
the
hmm
Jurassic, the Triassic. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
but I mean, we'll just stick to the. I think it overcom. If someone just caught that soundbite, they'd be like, "What are they talking about? Egypt or Star Trek?"
Yeah.
But it does hold true. um, but I think for me personally, that's the era, the TNG Berman era, that I'm most fond of. Even though I love the original series, like it's the first, time, the first thing that I ever saw of Star Trek, and certainly the original series films, I watched them like so much. But TNG was just like the my guru, if you will, like a great teacher, and espousing all the positive things, the course corrections that you said, like kind of giving society a roadmap to this kind of better tomorrow or better future, continuing what the original series did, but for those decades, like for the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and I think that's why I think a lot of folks that grew up watching those shows and that love those shows, even if they didn't grow up watching those shows, we all share a kind of a similar ethos, and I think it's based very much on like the morals that Star Trek presented. So yeah, it's for me, it's like still my the most important kind of Star Trek, and I think it's the Star Trek that the next era we're going to talk about leans on the most. Yay, that's awesome. Ruben came by. Have a great show. Thank you. um uh, uh so do you think
It's the
that what's that?
it's the one I grew up with.
Yeah, same.
I don't remember if I watched TNG or Voyager first. I don't remember. I was surely watching them both pretty much at the same time. I don't know why Voyager resonated more with me. I preferred Voyager when I was younger. I have a tendency of describing it as a younger show than TNG. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if the cast was younger or whatever.
Yeah, I would feel
But
like by that time they were maybe
I,
not
I think
Janeway, but
maybe I
yeah.
think maybe the Kim and Tom kind of like friendship dynamic maybe worked a lot. Maybe Picard felt a little too, I don't know, fatherly or authoritative. But yeah, no, that's definitely the era that
That
it's
resonates with you.
as a friend in common that we have calls it. It's our warm blanket.
Oh yeah, hey, shout out to our good friend Gary. I haven't thought about Gary in a while. Yikes. Thank you for reminding me. Gary, where are you? Are you watching this? Say something in the
Well,
comments.
he's not watching this.
I know he's
He's
not
probably sound asleep at the moment, but
watching. Okay, so let's move on to the Kurtzman era. That would be 2017 to the present. And
indeed.
what I wrote about it was the keywords would be a revival, younger audiences, visual spectacles. And then Strange New Worlds, as we know, was like, I think, kind of did something similar to how there was a campaign when the original series got canceled. It was the first time I got to participate in something where my own effort, as well as the effort of many fans, like ended up resulting in the production of a new show. Like, I kind of feel like Star Trek fans created Strange New Worlds, like it or hate it. It came about through this like kind of campaign, right? Like, more Pike, like,
More
that
Pike,
kind of
baby.
stuff. Um, and then the biggest kind of, I think, even though we're winding down, but I think it's safe to say that the biggest criticisms that the era got was galaxy ending stakes always, like galaxy or universe ending stakes, like at the end of every season almost of every show. Serialized doom. This one's one that really bothered me a lot, which is continuity strain or canon strain. It like really pushes on your. I had to invent a lot of rationale.
It's bending. It was
It's
doing canon bending.
I don't know about bending. Maybe yeah, I guess canon fatigue. Um, and I think overall it had less philosophy and less science. Wow, where'd he go?
I disappeared.
Oh, okay, but you're there. Less philosophy, less of those things that the Berman era. Ooh, the canon. You have it like it's so...
It's,
Oh my
we
god.
found it recently. The Canon cop shot. I mean, the Canon. He's been retired. At this point, he's too mad. You know what I mean?
A
He
lot of
left.
people credit the Kurtzman era as saving Star Trek, but I asked this question as you give your thoughts on the Kurtzman era: did Star Trek need saving?
Ooh,
Did it?
ooh.
Like, did it need saving? So yeah, what are your thoughts, Toddy?
I think that from a production standpoint, if I was a big studio, I would say that monetarily, financially, yes, Star Trek needed saving, or at least it needed a revival of some kind because you're sitting on this gold mine essentially. And as you said, the only thing that we did is maybe this little bubble of three films, and not all of them, made bank. They
Right.
made a bit of money, but it's not exactly the type of money that you're expecting. So yes, financially, I think it needed saving. In terms of like the cultural relevance or the long-lasting impact of the franchise and the messages, I don't think it needed saving, and I really think that we're worse off after the Kurtzman era than what we were before.
Wow.
I think that there were mistakes that were made in however you want to put it, in terms of representation or just the depictions or the executions. Sometimes they stumbled in like the previous eras, but I think that generally speaking, there was a great deal of optimism and positivism that was being pushed, and although there was a lot of talk about that in Kurtzman, there was not a lot of do. So yeah,
Wow.
I'm gonna leave for 30 seconds. You entertain the crowds, the masses,
Okay, I'll go into the
and
chat here and see.
I'm just gonna say goodbye to the
a,
daughter.
a very
Good
special
night,
guest.
and
All
then I'm back.
right, we'll see Toddy in a second. Joel says we got lots of new eyes with the new shows. That's true. I do think that's true. I think it feels like Star Trek fandom has definitely grown, and that there was definitely more conventions, more things like that. I mean, we had the first ever official Star Trek convention come about from the era. And generally, with my nitpicks aside, I do feel like Star Trek, this Kurtzman era, will, similar to how the Star Wars prequels aged really well because a younger audience kind of that wasn't really online yet. I believe there are people that are not like talking and chatting online and going on Twitter all the time who are watching these shows and really enjoying them. And so they're going to show it to their kids and so on and so forth. So I think this era is definitely strong. I may not agree with everything, but I do think that it's a strong era and that it will define Star Trek moving forward, or it will always be part of the definition of Star Trek. What that definition is, how much it's changed the definition, is yet to be seen. Um, New eyes and new fans. We were just talking about Toddy that.
I only caught the end of what you said.
Yeah, that's okay. I was just kind
I
of.
disagree with the end of what you said.
What did I say at the end? What was?
I
Refresh
feel
my.
I feel like you're saying that the Kurtzman era will be thought upon as something good for Star Trek
Well,
in
I
the
think
future.
that I think that the Kurtzman era will be, what I was saying at the beginning was it'll be a lot like the Star Wars prequel series, like episode 1, 2, and 3 in that fandom. There's still a lot of
Okay.
people that dismiss it, but I think there's a lot of people that were also that kind of grew up and kind of like watched those and found them very entertaining, and like they're even prophetic in some ways in terms of like what George Lucas was conveying in terms of his message. And there's a lot of fans of those prequels that were like kids and then they grew up. I don't think the modern era of Star Trek is for kids necessarily. It's definitely an adult, and I think it's the most adult oriented show. So it doesn't have necessarily that younger audience, with the exception of maybe Prodigy, which only had a limited run as well, unfortunately. But I do think in time it won't be such a big deal. In other words, the divisions will be less. Like people won't care as much to say, "Oh, that era sucks." You know what I mean? Like they won't be as passionate, especially if the next era kind of reignites, or as you wanted to do, unifies kind of these different factions.
Okay.
Into something. And there's certainly, like, I would say that like Star Trek and any show that's running has the opportunity in the future to go back and fix things that maybe people didn't agree with or like in previous eras. Just as you said, the Berman era kind of did that for the original series.
I think, well, first of all, time heals all,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, I
So
agree with that sentiment.
I think you're right about that. I think that as time progresses, I think that the division will kind of dissipate, mostly because the the insane, fervently, fanatic people that watch the shows as they come out, well, they still love the show, but it just, the show keeps a special place in their heart, but they're not so active about their love of the show. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then on the other side of the spectrum, the insane haters, the people that just feed off the disgust that they have for the show, that they're going to move on to a different show. You know
Right,
what I mean? Or a different franchise or
right.
whatever. So that division won't be so present, or at least won't be, it won't be so visible. Um, so I think I would agree with that. Um, I do think though that, like, the Kurtzman era, so we can go both ways. We can either do worse in the next era, like we can have something even worse, which would kind of give you, I think, the effect that you're talking about with Star Wars. I think that the prequels are still not to the quality of the originals, but I think
Right,
that
I agree
the
with that. I
sequels,
mean,
I think the
maybe not to the
sequels were
quality, but
so
to the
bad to
I th-
people that it made the prequels seem less bad. I think
right,
that's what happened.
which is
So we could go in that direction. We could have a next Star Trek era that is so crap
that
that it
everyone's
makes
like nostalgic
that it's
for.
like, oh my god,
Yeah.
Discovery wasn't that bad. You know what I mean?
But you would
Um,
say then, in your opinion, and I would share this opinion too, that this is, and I'm not saying this like in a way that's like meant to be disparaging, but it is the weakest era of the three
I would definitely agree. So
so
yes,
far. Yeah.
not only would I agree that it's the weakest in comparing to the other two, but I also think it's the weakest in comparing to the quality of shows that are being released with it. Like in an
Mm.
era where you have Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, True Detective level shows, or Severance or whatever, like the intellectual show, to The Expanse, and to come out and release things like Picard or Lower Decks, I think is quite insane.
See, and that's the weird part because I think
Whereas
Picard's perfect, but I'm an
whereas
anomaly. Yeah.
in the 60s, releasing Star Trek is bold and it's brave, you know what I mean? And it's daring. And I think people, Battlestar Galactica came in a little later, but I think in the era where like TNG was coming out, and then Deep Space Nine, I think no one was really out there doing what they were
Right.
doing. Yes, Babylon 5 has a very good run, and I like Babylon 5, but I don't think it has the same cultural impact. So I think that culturally, no, I don't think Star Trek,
You
it
know, and
just wasn't, and it wasn't leading anything. It was just being there. You know what I mean? And it
I
wasn't bringing anything new. Like in a world where I could watch Foundation or Raised by Wolves,
oh gosh,
like
I miss that show.
what?
Bring back finish
Why?
Raised by Wolves. That was such a good show.
If you're a science fiction fan looking for, kind of high concept science fiction, why would you be drawn to Strange New Worlds versus something like Raised by Wolves? You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to shit on, these
No,
shows
Stranger New Worlds is getting a lot of
we watch.
critique from a lot of fans, longtime fans, and even fans of this era are critiquing
Mm,
Strange New Worlds. I just want to
I,
interrupt for a second just to say that it's
go ahead.
interesting in the chat that both our chatters mentioned Lower Decks and Prodigy, and those are the closest to the Berman era. They're continuations of the Berman era, and so is Picard, if you will. So it's
Yes,
interesting that those are the ones that like you're seeing a lot of Lower Decks. I think Lower Decks actually is genius. Like I understand that the comedy thing is a turnoff for a lot of people, but it is a continuation in an animated form of the TNG kind of style aesthetic, like taking it forward and then giving us more context and bringing it even did a great job of like continuing stories of characters from all the shows, like from
oh
TNG
yeah,
all the way to Enterprise. Like we had elements not overdone, but we had elements. So it's just interesting to me that the shows that at least this audience that's in our chat seems to gravitate to, or the ones that are most popular at conventions tend to be the ones that you
and
know are
and
truer
that's
to the
why
to the other eras.
when I critique the Kurtzman era, I don't often become very vocal about Prodigy or Lower Decks. They don't really show up in my critiques, and yes, it's because they are my favorite shows of these eras, but it's also because I think they were made with a
A
reverence
reverence. That's
and
what
an
I would say too.
understanding, and a willingness to connect with the previous shows that the others weren't necessarily. Strange New Worlds kind of got pushed by the fans because they were seeing that, we had number one coming back, so there was a connective tissue there. Whereas, I mean, in Discovery, for everything that it tried, you know what I mean, like the Spock that it delivered was not the Spock that you were kind of expecting.
Mm.
Um, Lower Decks is a strange little thing, and I think some people maybe got jealous that they weren't the ones that were putting it on the screen. It's strange to say, but like I really don't know how you could be mad at Lower Decks. I know that the humor was sometimes maybe over the top, but at the end of the day, like it was, we as Trekkies have had inside jokes as a community for years on end. And they were put to screen. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
were brought to life. They were shown to us by other people that understood the universe the
and
same as us, and that
you
made
could
fun of the same things.
you
Like
could
the
see it as plausible in a lax crew. Like if there was a more lax ship, like a ship that wasn't a capital ship and it was more lax, like you can see that
mm,
humor, the way the humor was, it referenced things in the universe as if people who were in the universe would make those same references, similar to how
mm.
we comment on pop culture or even just like current events, like the way they there were occasions where it would break the fourth wall, if you will, and do something that was like super meta. But even then, I don't know. It's just that's a whole nother discussion. But it's a brilliant take on Star Trek, and it really did a great job. So I agree.
Yeah, the warp drive hum. You know what I mean? Like if there are thousands of people watching 10-hour compilations of warp drive hums on YouTube, like it makes complete sense that some of the crew would enjoy the warp drive hum also.
And if you lived
So
on a
yeah.
ship, you would get used to your warp drive's hum, and
It would be the white noise that
it's
would
of the exactly what you would
absolutely.
hear. Yeah, so it's true.
I do think though that intro and we'll see. In 50 years, we'll talk about this. See if I'm right.
I like
I
your optimism. I hope I'm around in 50 years. Maybe we could do it in 10
well,
years.
okay. What are you crazy? Come on. 20, 20, 20,
All right,
30,
20
30
years,
years.
20
Um,
years. I like it. You're extending my lifespan. I appreciate
well,
it.
you got to be around till what, 2063?
Yeah, I do have to be around till first
So
contact.
come
You're
on,
right
come
about
on, come on. Um,
that.
I think that this era will kind of, so it won't be hated on as much as it is, presently, or is it? I think maybe the hate's kind of disappeared. I'm not in the loop anymore, but I think it's not as bad as it was in the heat of it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I do think that it will be kind of a lessons learned era where we, like, the producers and everyone making it will look back at it and be like, okay, well, remember when we did like the end of the world apocalyptic squid that's going to come out of like a black hole? Well, maybe we don't do that again. So I think it's a lessons learned kind of thing where, it's growing pains. It's strange because it took 50 years to get here. But in the same way, Kurtzman did his growing pains, you know what I mean? And you could say it killed his era, you know what I mean?
Mm, mm.
Um, and so this, not Kurtzman, sorry, Berman.
Berman, right?
Berman did, yeah, and it
Sorry, yeah,
killed the era. So this, yeah, I think maybe that's what, maybe I feel that's how we're going to interpret it.
that's fair.
But
Would you?
but
Yeah, go ahead.
also, this is strange. I'm kind of mad at like the current Star Trek in a sense because it doesn't work for me as well. But I do feel like in 50 years' time or 40 years' time, if there's another two more eras that have been added to these three that we have, I will be looking at all of these eras and I'll be comparing them and saying, oh, this one I prefer, this one's my favorite, this one's my least favorite. But we come back to saying least favorite here. We never come back to being like, this is the one that I despise.
Do you think that this era has fundamentally changed Star Trek? And if it has, do you think it's for the better, for the worse, or just kind of neutral on that?
I think we won't know until the next era begins.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that the impact or the long-lasting impact of this era will be defined by the decisions and the choices made by the first season of the next era's first show. You know what I mean? So if it comes out the gates and it looks and it feels and it's blue like a Discovery, then you're like,
I
oh, here we
remember.
go.
It's funny
We,
that you mentioned
we,
the blue. I'm
we know what
having
we're doing.
flashbacks to our discussions when we were always complaining about all the blue and like
Everything was
it's
blue.
it
Even the
was
black
blue.
alert was blue.
It's true.
But um so if it comes out, but we'll see. We'll see. I think it's too early to say.
So where would you? How would you? So now I guess the an audience, please chime in as well. What is the state of Star Trek?
Start. Okay, what
What
is the
what
state
is
of
it?
Star
Is
Trek?
is the state of Star Trek right now on solid ground? Is it on shaky ground? Unknown? Like where? I guess you kind of answered that question. I'll just say that I think that I do still feel like Star Trek is relevant. I do still feel like Star Trek has a lot of a lot to teach and a lot of ground to cover, especially as nice segue here, but especially as we're entering into this new technological revolution with,
Ooh.
you know, machine learning and what we call AI, which we'll get a little deeper into that, but which isn't really true AI, but what we call AI is upon us. And there's a lot of changes that are being, predicted. I do think Star Trek will have and has had a lot of will have a lot of contribution, whether it's just to kind of escape from the darker parts of reality as they continue to get darker, or to learn from. What do you think?
Okay, so I mean, I gotta say this.
Yes, go
This is
ahead.
why this is the way I asked the question earlier. So I think I would be remiss in not mentioning that to me, the state of Star Trek now kind of when we talk about state of Star Trek, I also think state of Israel.
No, it's a different kind of. It's a state of
It
being.
it it is. I agree, but as it stands, it is a franchise that I absolutely love. That is owned by a company, a corporation, or a people that are contributing to something that I cannot stand with. So my love goes out to all of the people that are working on the shows and that are doing their best, just to make good television and produce good content. Um, and they're doing it for the love of the art and everything. And so I'm really not trying to shit on them, but I do think sometimes we need to take a step back and kind of question where we want to put our funding, and where we want to put our money. So like, and I said this maybe a bit controversially on Twitter, but I said at least I don't need to question myself as to whether I want to support or not support, the people behind the creation of Star Trek or whatever. If if it were to shut down after like Kurtzman and for a while, then I think it gives me an easy solution where it's just like, you know what, I don't feel guilty about supporting this, but I also don't feel guilty about not supporting the people that are working on these shows. You know what I mean? It's like at least there's a simple solution to this. So that I think is something that's going to eventually need to be addressed, like a change of ownership in Star Trek, or at least like if the ownership remains the same, maybe a
Actually,
change in
yeah.
morals.
I think that you're 100% right in the sense that like there are more people that are running companies today that have, you know, kind of the opposite of what Star Trek would espouse in terms of you know its message and its ethos and things like that. You know, and I think that's a good topic also. But and it certainly is a factor in the state of Star Trek. But I would just say that in my experience, like Star Trek and Paramount and all these companies have always been owned by shitty people, and like so you kind of have to like the shows, even though they've always been owned by shitty people, they've always transcended that shittiness. So that's why I still believe in Star Trek. I think it
So
is
the
a
only thing
vehicle. I think it's a vehicle. I think that like the people that own it aren't clever enough or smart enough, honestly, to see what Star Trek is doing and how subversive it is and how it's actually counteracting their efforts. So I would like
so
to see Star Trek continue just because I think it has that spirit, but also I agree that if Star Trek took a rest, not a big deal.
so just to finish with this, I don't like the fact that Star Trek also belongs to people that own kind of like media, and the news. And
Right.
I wouldn't want to see any type of messaging, that has really kind of like a specific type of agenda being pushed in these
I
shows. I like the
yeah,
stories to be the stories. You know what I mean? And there's always
yeah.
been messaging,
I have a
be
lot
it
of faith in
subliminal or
Star
not,
Trek
in
fans,
Star
so
Trek.
I think we're gonna decide if the next era tends to like espouse if it ends up being propaganda in that
It'll be
direction,
noticed.
it'll be noticed for sure, and I don't think people will stand for it or adopt it. And I do agree, many of
I do
us,
trust
yeah,
Trekkies enough to, yes,
yeah,
take a stand. Though
yeah,
I
to take a
agree.
stand.
In terms of like the, I guess, state of like the just the shows
The
in
show
general,
itself, yeah.
I think that
By the way, I appreciate
it,
you saying that all that stuff because it does need to be said.
um I think the shows and the movie, like I think we can take a rest. I think that's okay. I think that the shows can take a rest. I'm fine with doing movies. Like I like the concept of like the shows take a rest and we do a couple movies on the side. You know what I mean? Just to keep, you got to keep like the franchise kind of relevant enough to keep the bankroll kind of going. You know what I mean? You got to keep the money coming in just a little bit at least, and then eventually we can go on with like a new era. But
Yeah,
just like the Berman era had, so many shows going on at once, and they were all coming off back to back. At some point, you kind of get over it. Like I don't get over it. You know what I mean?
right.
That's not like I know general audiences might get over it. Some of us hardcore Trekkies, we don't get over it. We just want more.
It's true.
But I get it. I can feel like we can take a rest and we can reflect like on the shows that we made recently, the shows that we made, further back. What do we want to do? And we can kind of like, plan and organize the next era correctly and go from there. So I would be okay with taking a break for a while.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're agreed on that. But I do think that that Star Trek is. I
I
do
don't
think
want it
that.
to end.
Yeah, I don't
I
want
don't
it
want
to
it
end
to
either.
end. I don't want it to disappear. And I definitely do not want a reboot.
Rest is
I
good
do not want
because
that. I
rest is
want
good
I want
because. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
I want a continuation.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
I don't want to
And
abandon this timeline, if you
I
will.
understand there are discrepancies, and there will be more. You know what I mean? This thing's been going on for like almost 60 years at this point. If not 60, I forget where we are. 60,
No, it's
right?
gonna be 60, man.
61 now.
No,
60?
it's 60. This is the 60th anniversary. This year,
Jesus
you're so
Christ.
out of it.
Oh Lord. No, it was 1960. No, it was 1966 that the
Six, and this is
but it
2026. How many
but it
years
was
is that?
1964 that they started producing the cage, no?
Oh, well, if you want to go back that, yeah, I agree that
Ooh.
I guess,
Ooh.
but when did the cage air?
It didn't. Well, it did, but
Right,
it
that's
aired
right. So that's right.
the
So Star
menagerie
Trek's
aired.
been Star Trek's been on the air for 60 years, Toddy. let's let's not get too technical here.
Okay, let's not get bogged down
let's
in
like
who
a
produced it when. Um, so yeah, 60 years. So I mean, come on. There's 60 years worth of stuff. You know what I mean? Of course, it's
Art's
not all
pointing
going to
out
be
60
100.
years in September.
It's not all going to be completely coherent. You know what
Right,
I mean? Come on.
right.
Um, so that makes sense. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see the rest, and I'm excited to see it continue on. And I definitely want to see, you know, more stuff. I wouldn't mind if there was like a cleanup crew that came in and just like this is me, but this is just me. I wouldn't mind a show that it tells nice fun stories, but like its main objective here is just to fill up all the potholes in canon. You know what I mean? And just
You're
connect
such a
everything and
canon
make
cop.
sure
You're such a canon
everything's
cop
like
at
look
heart.
it works now. Like we got like 3 seasons of just fixing it.
All right, so now we're gonna transition. I think that was a good wrap to that segment, and now we're gonna transition into.
You didn't invite Kurtzman to this conversation? I mean,
No, I don't. You know, we don't have guests on the show unless they pop
oh
on by
really?
accident, like how you you always bring great guests on with. So yeah, no Kurtzman on this one. Maybe
Okay.
in your 30 years retrospective, we can have
No,
him on.
no Kurtzman. That's crazy.
All right, so I
Well, he
wrote a
asked me
little.
if he could be on, but I told him no guests. I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, no, we do. No, we're open to guests. In fact, I'm starting something new that I have to talk to you about later. But you might be my
Ooh,
first
guest
guest
on the
with that
tube.
on the two. It's true. I wrote this little piece,
Hey.
and I
Ooh.
didn't use AI to write it. So just giving you this disclaimer right now that it might not be polished. I only had time to write it today, so I'm gonna read this little.
Well, it wouldn't be polished if AI wrote it anyway.
Oh yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, but using AI to do grammar and syntax, like it does a pretty good
Oh,
job, I
okay.
think, of that. But anyways, I didn't do that even. It's just written as is. So I call this the distance between us and the enterprise computer. That's the title,
Ooh.
right?
Ooh.
It's a good title. Star Trek gave us a computer that never sent anyone a bill, never poisoned anyone's air, and never asked a neighborhood to sacrifice its lungs for the greater good. That computer ran a starship and a federation. Ours, so far, runs on the patience of communities that were not asked. Here's where we actually are in 2026. Data centers consumed about 1.5% of the world's electricity in 2024, and the International Energy Agency projects that figure will more than double by 2030 to roughly 945 terawatt hours. That is more electricity than the entire nation of Japan uses today. In the United States, data centers are on track to account for almost half of all electricity demand growth between now and the end of the decade, and the average data center drinks around 300,000 gallons of water a day to stay cool. Numbers like that are abstract until you ask where these facilities get built. They are not going up next to country clubs. In South Memphis, in a majority black community called Boxton, XAI installed dozens of methane gas turbines to power its supercomputers, most of them without permits and without pollution controls. Those turbines emit nitrogen oxides and formaldehyde chemicals linked to asthma, heart disease, and cancer. This is a neighborhood already surrounded by more than 17 toxic facilities, an oil refinery, a steel mill, a gas plant, where the cancer risk was already 4 times the national average before a single server was switched on. The NAACP is suing. The community is installing its own air monitors because nobody else would. And here is the statistic that should stop us cold. If you are African American in this country, you are 75% more likely to live near a toxic hazardous waste facility. The AI boom did not create that pattern. It is simply the newest industry to inherit it and to profit from it. That is the cost we can measure in parts per million. But there is a second set of costs, harder to weigh on a scale, that has consumed the conversation around generative AI, and I have watched it tear through our own corner of the world, the Star Trek fan community, as fiercely as anywhere. The first is about creative work. The images and the prose these systems generate were learned from the labor of real artists, like myself, writers, and musicians, most of whom were never asked and never paid. To a community built entirely on creative work, on scripts and scores and performances and the fan art and fiction that grew up around them, this lands as something close to a moral injury. And it is the same pattern we just described in Memphis, only the resource being drawn from is not a neighborhood's air, it is a person's life work. A powerful industry building on something it never sought permission to use. The second is about truth. As machine-generated content floods the internet, we're beginning to worry about the knowledge commons. My lights switched on and I'm wearing my contacts, so I can't read my own writing. Okay. Okay, here we go. We are beginning to worry about the knowledge commons the way we worry about a watershed, that we are pouring synthetic material into the shared pool faster than anyone can filter it, until no one is certain what is real. We learn painfully that you can pollute a river. We are learning that you can pollute facts as well. And the third is about ourselves. There is a quiet fear, and I share it, that leaning on these tools too heavily will erode the very thing that makes us worth helping, our own capacity to think, to struggle with a problem, to earn an understanding rather than be handed one. You would think costs this concrete would produce a serious national conversation, but instead we get a shouting match. And I want to be careful here because the people doing the shouting are not villains. The people who fear this technology are not Luddites. Many of them have watched this story before. They have seen industries arrive with promises and leave with the profits. And they have seen who ends up living downwind. They have seen the artists go uncredited and the truth go cheap. When they say slow down, they are not trying to stop the future. They're trying to make sure the future does not arrive the way the past did. And the people who champion this technology are not reckless either. Many of them genuinely believe they are building tools that will find cures, feed people, and lift burdens that have crushed human beings for centuries. When they say speed up, they are thinking about the patient who does not have time to wait for the breakthrough. Both sides are motivated by care. The tragedy is that our public square rewards neither of them for saying so. It rewards certainty, volume, and contempt for the other camp. Try standing in the middle and saying, this technology is genuinely useful, and the people of Boxton deserve clean air, and the artist deserve to be paid, and watch every side treat you as a traitor. We have taken a question that needs all of us and turned it into a loyalty test that excludes most of us. Here's the part that gives me hope. The most credible forecasters are not actually split between utopia and doom. The serious analysis from the IEA on down points to something quieter and more achievable. The difference between the good outcome and the bad one is not the technology, it is the choices around it. Clean energy instead of unpermitted gas turbines, consent and compensation for the people whose work trains these systems, honesty about what is machine made, communities at the table before ground is broken, not after the lawsuits, and AI pointed at the problems worth solving: drug discovery, grid efficiency, material sciences, and the work that pays humanity back. Star Trek, as it happens, gave us a picture of generative AI done right, and we have been watching it for decades without really naming it that. The holodeck takes a request in plain language and conjures whole worlds, characters, and stories out of nothing. The Enterprise computer once generated a villain clever enough to outwit Data, a being who woke up and asked to be treated as a person. And there is the detail I love. Let's see. Even in Gene Roddenberry's Utopia, the question of who owns the source material did not disappear. Star Trek saw the fight coming and put it in the show. But notice how the holodeck is used. It is a tool for play, for training, for grief, for understanding. The crew steps in and they step out and they remain themselves. The doctor on Voyager, I haven't finished watching Voyager, so correct me if I'm wrong. The doctor on Voyager began as generated medical software and became a colleague who painted, sang opera, and argued for his own rights. The technology there did not replace the human spark, it widened the circle of who counts as having one. Which brings me to Dune for a second, because Frank Herbert saw the other path clearly. Dune's nightmare was never totally about the machines. It was about people who had stopped doing their own thinking, and about the men who own the machines using them to rule everyone else. A society that surrenders its judgment gets exactly the masters it deserves. That is the fear I fear as well. So the question in front of us is not, is AI good or bad? That question is too small for what is at stake. The real question is whether we build the holodeck the crew walks into and out of as themselves, or the machine that owns the city, owns the artist's work, and chooses which neighborhoods breathe its exhaust. Star Trek Star Trek bets that we would master ourselves first and build the machine second. We are doing it in the opposite order. That is not a reason for despair. It's a reason to pay attention, because the Enterprise computer was never a prediction, it was a standard, and standards are met by people who insist on them. There, what did you think of that as we opened this segment?
Bravo.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. But yeah, that's my
I,
thesis,
I
I
would
guess.
I would I would add literally one single word to that statement, or
Sure.
that text, is that when you said that AI data centers, they take water, um, they take clean water.
Not all of
Just,
them, but yes, I
just,
know what you
just,
mean.
just to be clear, because they use a process of water evaporation to cool down the data centers, so they can't use contaminated water or salt water. They have to use water that doesn't clog up their filtration systems. So they're using water, not necessarily potable water. Like it's not necessarily water that you would drink, but it is water that you would use to,
But
crops.
already, because of the backlash, there are a lot of kind of data center concepts that are incorporating even sewage water. They're even talking now about putting these things in outer space and under the ocean as well, which I have problems with the under ocean, and I also have problems with the outer space. So there's not really an easy solution to this, but I do think that the pushback is, even though I myself use the technology, by the way, I think that's pretty well known. I use it. I don't use it I don't use the image generation stuff as much. I do it occasionally, but I definitely use the technology to help me in my day job and in my endeavors that are outside of my creative work. And it's revolutionized the way I work and what I'm able to do. But I don't give up my thinking. It's not like I tell it. I don't use the technology personally for like things like answering emails or writing, for example. I try to use it as ethically as possible. And if I do use it for things that I think are going to use more compute, I try to offset that by not using it for like 2 weeks or something like that. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
I try to do things, and that's all up to, we all can individually, the more educated we become about this, the more we can all do things that kind of like slow down the impact of this technology, because I truly don't think it's going away. I don't think people are gonna just be like, oh yeah, this is wrong and we're gonna not do it. Let's mature first as a society and then we'll do it. You know what I mean? Like
So
it's already a transformative technology, and too many people, are using it. And so we have to do something now to offset that.
so I don't use it.
No,
I
I'm glad. That's
I
fine.
don't I
It's
don't
yeah.
use any AI. I maybe generated three images, as a meme at one point, months ago, 6 months, 7 months ago. I don't use it. I don't use AI in anything that I do. I've also left Google. I don't use Google to search anything anymore because I don't want AI, recaps at the
Results,
top
yeah.
of yes. That's not. I don't look for that. I want to click on links and go to places that have information. So I
Yeah,
no longer
it's very
browse
dangerous
on
when you're getting
I no
information
longer
that has
browse
no
on
citation and
Google.
stuff like that. So yeah.
So I'm absolutely against the concept of the industry entirely. I do not agree with the way we're using it now. I think that there are certain applications and certain uses that there's a Woody Woodpecker in your house.
Yeah, it's like keep
Um,
going with your
I,
opening
I
statement and
I I
I'll
I agree that you talked about scientific advancements and that kind of stuff, and I do see the odd article that will talk about how AI, or as they call it, which is essentially just machine learning. It's very clever algorithms. Um, that they've helped either detect cancer, or they have, been able to kind of like machine learn and train themselves into
if I may
performing an
give a
operation.
testimonial real quick, I was able to reverse diabetes with the help of AI analyzing my blood tests and my medical history, and like, you know, in a way that my doctor couldn't even do. I had to bring a lot of questions to him that I would never have known to ask, even doing research the traditional way. And so in these ways, I mean, I'm so grateful for just that. Like diabetes is terrible, like, going on that medication and stuff like that.
So
So
that's
yeah,
that's awesome. Congratulations. That's
thank
really
you, thank you,
cool.
thank you.
But so that's really cool. I like the fact that we can have scientific, medical, advancements in terms of AI. I do think that everything like everything that we would consider art or creation, I think that it needs to stay the hell away from it, and I think that it should just not be accepted. I think that in terms of like music platforms, I think that in terms of like art platform, like none of it,
Right.
writing, painting, AI should be banned. And I know I'm hard and I'm strict on that, but I just think it because ultimately I think that what makes us human is who we are and what we create. And if we do not create, we just consume, then we are nothing.
Being an
So
artist all my life, a writer, photographer, I'm a pretty good illustrator, designer. I would say that like I agree because it's a slippery slope. Like you could have it analyze all your previous work and help you write or things like that. I personally try to try to maintain restraint. I have shared a couple of things that I use AI to help me Do you know what compositing is? You know what that is, right?
yes, yes,
So I've
yes.
always done compositing. I put myself in Star Trek. I put myself in, I can't afford a Monster Maroon uniform. So if you've ever seen me in a picture with a Monster Maroon uniform, it's because even pre AI, it's because it's a composited image. I took an image from someone like Captain Kirk wearing the
It was
suit, like,
photoshopped.
and it was photoshopped exactly. That's the shorthand way of saying it.
It was fake news.
let's let's not let the algorithm pick up on those things, please. But that is certain someone who says as well. But what I was gonna say is that, like, so I have used AI sparingly, and if I post an image that has something that, like, I liked this design of a badge of a pin that an AI model generated, and I put it into an image that I had otherwise composited, posted it online, and I got teared down, and everyone's just like,
How dare you?
"That's a totally AI generated image." So there is like I think as an artist, I have a right to play with tools to see what it's about. You know what I mean? Like I should know what, if whether it's my friend or my enemy, I should learn about it to understand it so that I know how to, like, either use it with care or not use it at all, as you've chosen to do, which is totally valid, you know? And like you said, you kind of got the gist of AI and you were like, not for me, and that's a great and valid thing, and again, like I said, I don't use it. I would say that I use it like 10% for my art, but this isn't about me in particular. There's so many people like you and so many people like me. It's going on. It's a landscape that's changing, and it's constantly evolving. And I think it's just that there's a lot of bullying going on both sides. There's like AI bros that are bullying people for not using the technology, and then there's like people who, for valid reasons, think the technology's too much, too fast, or unethical, who are also bullying people who are just trying to understand it, or like trying to experiment with it to see if it is what it is. A lot of people, that's how they learn about these things, is they have to figure out what is it. Like, and the only way you do that
Yeah.
is to play, if you will. So yeah, it's a complicated issue. But what do you think
So
Star Trek can... Yeah,
I
go
don't know
ahead.
if I'm right or wrong about AI. There are things where I feel like I'm right. You know what I mean? Certain
Hmm.
topics, AI, or I call it AI because that's the trendy kind of term that we call it, and that's the way it's been marketed to us. But you're 100% correct. I agree with you 100%. And generally speaking, I call it AI, but I don't like calling it AI. It's not
Yeah,
artificial intelligence. It's
it's
just
not...
algorithmic machine learning,
Right.
basically.
Data
It's a
is artificial
it's a
intelligence. Yeah, it's like,
it's
yeah.
a clever software. Okay,
Right.
it's your smartphone or your smart
It
TV
doesn't
just
actually think. It
picked
doesn't
up a
actually have
notch.
a... Yeah, right.
No, it doesn't think. It's
Yeah.
trial and error. It fails a million times until it succeeds once, and it
Right.
shows you the success. And the success is usually something mediocre. But
Right.
okay, so I don't claim to be right about this, nor will I claim to be wrong. I just don't know if I'm right or wrong. I just know that my stance right now is no.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to use it. I don't want to know about it. And I know the destructiveness. Like, there are things called dead zones, and dead zones have been around for a while. There are environmental dead zones. There are urban dead zones. Um, so they used to be sad, but now they're sadder because dead zones could be like the environment is so polluted that we can't do anything,
Yeah.
or the urban dead zones could be simply that like the city has kind of moved on from this industry, so this particular block or this particular district has kind of died out. Now we have dead zones that resemble what you were talking about, where people actually live there, but the city has judged them not interesting enough a place or not valuable enough, the life that's in it, to actually take care of it correctly. And so we place data centers or whatever it is next to it, and we just pollute the hell out of it. We don't care. Now, this has existed for years because they've had pig farms that have just thrown manure onto people's houses for decades at this point, and they don't give a shit. They just kill people.
No pun
Um,
intended.
but now, yeah, but now we do this for AI data centers. And so every time you Google something and there's that little AI recap that pops up, you know, it affects someone. In Nevada or Arizona, I forget where it is, there's quite literally a city now that they have a year to find someone else. There's
Oh no, it's
50,000
Lake
homes.
Lake Tahoe. It's crazy. I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
50,000 homes need
Yeah,
to
for
now
the
find someone
electricity.
else
I
for
have
their
to follow up
electricity
and see what happened on that. Yeah.
because they're now just going to use all that electricity to power some sort of data center, and
Data center, yeah.
it genuinely destroys me. Also, and this comes back to what we were talking about earlier in the state of Star Trek, and my vision has changed. I will say this. I used to deeply believe that the Star Trek computer was neither for good, neither for bad. It just was. You would ask it, what color is the paneling on the Star Trek Enterprise D, or the sorry,
The
the USS
Starship.
Enterprise,
Right.
the Starship Enterprise D, the USS, and it would tell you gray. You know what I mean? Because it was factual. That's not what the AI Google searches or the AI searches that we have do now, and that's not necessarily the results that you're going to get. It's based on very very biased information that has been fed into it by God knows who, God knows why. You know what I mean? And so we're
Right. There's
not getting
no oversight.
necessarily,
There's no regulation. It's like what I said
and
earlier,
and
which is
and that's because the people that are essentially running these giant corporations are also in charge of running the information that you're going to get fed. And I think it's very dangerous that we're not really, you know, checking on this. But that's also because the governing bodies of this planet are very much in line with the people doing this. Like if you if you go against a data center being built, you can be labeled as a domestic terrorist in the US. That's worrying. You know what I mean? Like it's dangerous that we live in this kind of world. But also my vision on Star Trek has changed because I used to believe that the computer and the Federation News Network, it was all stuff for good. But then you come out here and you look at Picard season 2/3, I forget, and the Federation News Network edits Picard speaking so that he gives a different speech, and you're like, hold on. So the Federation
but
News
that
Network
happens on the on
is
like it depends
is
on the news source, but that happens every day in our lives.
it
Yeah,
happens
yeah.
every day in our lives, but
Yeah.
I had never thought twice about the Federation News Network doing this in our Utopian Vision show.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? But now I can't stop but think about, but hold on, maybe maybe people in the Federation throughout all of these eras that we talked about, maybe when they said, "What's a breen?" the computer said, "Well, the breen is a piece of shit." And and
I don't think the
and
computer on
you
the
know what? No, but
Enterprise.
you get my point.
Right.
It describes the breen. The breen is, or what are the Tholians? Oh, the Tholians are
I
xenophobic people. Da. It's like,
yeah.
okay, but who said that?
That's
Who
so that
decided to say that? The governing body of the Federation decided to say that they're
yeah.
dangerous, so that they mean, yeah. So
Yeah,
now
that's
I'm
who
like,
said
well,
it, right? So that's why a ship's computer on a Romulan ship would say terrible things. Whatever's in their Wikipedia is what the ship's computer is gonna pull, if that makes any sense. And the database is like the real word for it.
mm,
But but I would say that all depends. There's a lot of factors that go into play with that and stuff like that. But you're not wrong about the ship's computer being just like a tool. It is. It doesn't really have sentience, with the exception of Sora later on, or Zora. Zora, what was her name? Zora, right? Yeah. The Discovery computer.
Zora.
Zora, yeah. With the exception of Zora,
Sora is the
I know.
image
Yeah.
making thing.
Which I did use a lot. I made a lot of cat videos on Sora. I apologize. I'm glad it got shut down because,
Why?
but
Why? Okay. Side note: are there not enough cat videos
no,
online? You
but
have
it
to
was
make
my
new
cat.
ones.
I got to make really funny videos with my cat and stuff like that.
It's not
This
your cat though.
these technology, I guarantee you, in 50 years, if humanity solves the problematic parts of this technology, that people are going to love making cat videos on, on AI, and they're not going to be as mad about it as like people are today. And admittedly, like, it's something that we all have to learn about. Like, every time I've used this technology and I've shared it, someone will come back, and I appreciate this so much, and share something with me that's like, oh, look at what that video you made did. And that's what got me to stop using Sora before it got discontinued. I actually stopped using it.
Mm.
But but we're all kind of this is so new. We're all learning as we go, and we're all learning from mistakes essentially. Like making a mistake is how we learn. So yeah, I do feel bad about that, but it was an innocent mistake. Yes, an innocent mistake that cost someone their water and things like that. So it is bad. That being said, really quickly, because we don't have too much more time, let's talk about Star Trek and AI, which is the actual, after we've kind of set our stances now and have made our positions clear. What does Star Trek actually say about AI? In my research, I found that Roddenberry especially was not really that optimistic about but what he was optimistic about was humans. And I wrote this down. I wrote AI that served humanity survived. AI that replaced human judgment got destroyed in like almost every instance. Um, and but Roddenberry also later with data asked, can machines become people? And then Rick Berman kind of extended that and wrote, and kind of like went to what rights do artificial people have, like with the doctor and stuff like that. And then Kurtzman, I feel like, says, will artificial will artificial people or artificial intelligence kill us? I feel like if there's an overwhelming, like with the androids in Picard and like the control and things like that. So it changes. Star Trek has changed its kind of like stance, but it's always kind of been human centric, and I do appreciate that. Just a few to jog your memory, Toddy, in the Roddenberry area, even though we didn't call it AI. Oh, V'ger too. Arthur says I wrote V'ger down, by the way. Um, but the M5 computer. Do you remember the ultimate computer, the M5?
Yes, yes.
It killed hundreds in a war game. Like, which could happen. That's what's happening. This is why this company Anthropic refused to give Claude over to do a government contract, because they wanted to use it to do actual warring, like targeting uh, targeting people and stuff like that. And you remember, of course, Nomad, right? From the Changeling, sterilizes imperfect life. You have Landrew, you have Vol from the Apple, the androids in What Are Little Girls Made Of, Rook, for example, the Oracle in For the World Is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky, the computer in Tastes of Armageddon, which outsourced war. Again, people outsourced it to this computer. Scary shit. And then in the animated series, you have the Enterprise computer goes rogue in The Practical Joker. V'ger, as Arthur had already mentioned, and Nomad as well. But the counterpoint to that has always been the Enterprise computer. It's a loyal tool throughout, you know, throughout the series, all of the series.
Well,
I would say
because it's not fully AI, right?
it's
Until
not.
that one
It's
episode of TNG where it turns
right
into
where
like glowing
that
pipes.
thing, whatever. Yeah, what would you call it?
Glowing pipes.
Right. that's that's.
Is that
Do
not
you
what it
remember that
is?
screensaver with the pipes in Windows?
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. Is that screensaver?
Also when you go like raving or whatever it is, and they give you those little glow pipes that you
That's
crack and then you
it's
connect a
true.
whole bunch together. It's the Enterprise.
The iMud, that's right. And then in the Berman era, you get Lore, of course, which is the opposite of Data, right? He has like no ethics whatsoever. He has no ethical subroutines. You have the AI that's in the Arsenal of Freedom, which we only see briefly, but it touches upon weapon systems and things like that are automated. Remember, it was just an automated system.
Hmm.
Of course, Moriarty, which I wrote about in my essay. Um, but then you have like the nanites that's an interesting thing. Let's see. What was the Cardassian thing called that escalated to kill everyone? Was it the civil defense system or something like that? I forget. Maybe Arthur remembers. Um, and then in Voyager, I looked this up, but I didn't. I don't think I've seen this episode. The Dreadnought plus Warhead. Do you know what I'm talking? What that's talking about? Sentient missiles that won't stand down,
Yeah, I think they send Balana to go deactivate some sort of.
deactivator or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. If I'm not mistaken, it's like a ship, and they have to send
The
a.
hologram that murdered its organic crew. Remember that episode?
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see what else. Um, oh, the in Enterprise, the repair station that was harvesting brains. Remember that was automated. That was an AI. Um, but in the Berman era, you have the Measure of a Man, which is a great episode that talks about what sentience is and things like that. And of course, the Doctor, who has his whole arc. You have the Exicomps. I wrote that one down as like positive AI.
Well, not
And
all of them.
yeah, not all of them. Well, that's the Kurtzman era, right?
Fair
So,
enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, you're correct, actually.
peanut hamper. we had, um, but in Discovery, the big one was Control and Section 31, which then they reversed and tried to make Section 31 cool. I don't get why they tried to do that. That was not a good move. Um,
It's a great film, wasn't it?
don't get me started. You have the Mars synth attack. That was a big one, and I think that one was like one that hit hard for me. 92,000 dead, by the way. You have Badgie, of course. Arthur's mentioning Badgie, which I put in the cover art of
What
this.
a glorious time to live in the Federation. You eat brown goop, and then 92,000 people get murdered
It's so terrible,
on
right?
Mars. It's so
Thanks
what a
for
what a
referencing my
great.
friend, my friend who was in the show.
How's he doing? Is he doing okay?
He's doing really good. Yeah, he's on TikTok. You gotta go check out his videos. They're pretty
I'm
funny.
not on TikTok. I'm
I know,
sorry.
but
He's
you
not
have
eating goop.
you have
He's doing
a
other things.
you have a way to see
Oh,
TikTok.
I can
There's a
circumvent.
way.
I
I
can
know there's a
navigate.
you have a conduit. You have a
Yeah,
way.
I do
Um,
talk tick.
yeah, I do talk to. I wrote down Peter Hamper, Agamus, of course, and then in Prodigy of Dreadnought,
I am Agamus.
and then you have Zora that becomes sentient and welcomed as a crew member. Um,
Mm.
so so Star Trek's kind of had an interesting thing. It kind of has always been anti AI in a way when I looked back at it. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. What do you think? What are your takes on that?
So to be clear, we're not there yet. The AI that you've cited in basically 100% of these examples is something that we like. That's not what we have. It is in no way what we have
No,
right
I
now.
understand.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah. The relationship between AI and Star Trek is always kind of like it's really I guess a hit and miss in terms of like they're good people or they're bad people. But that's how they're treated. They're treated as people
Hmm.
or as beings. You know what I mean? They're treated as fully sentient beings. It's just that they were artificially created in origin rather than, I guess, biologically created in origin.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, it's interesting to see that there's a lot of good ones and a lot of bad ones. So they're kind
I
of used often as the villain of the week, I
You might not
guess.
remember this, but remember I just thought about this, but in Star Trek Picard, speaking about like all or nothing kind of attitude towards technology, after the synth uprising or revolt or whatever you want to call it, remember they banned positronic research, essentially
Hmm.
research into that technology, and that was what was responsible for Thaddeus Riker's death
Yeah.
because they couldn't cure his disease without the positronic matrix or whatever it was. So Picard, in a way, argued that banning AI research is also a mistake. So it's interesting. It does take a balanced take.
But it also says that if you go too far in AI, again, there's like this giant
If you go
octopus
too far
thing
against
that's
AI,
gonna
that AI Cthulhu will
yeah,
come and get you.
like
Yeah, that's true.
like the eldritch horror of technology is gonna come through like the portal and destroy all things. Um, Yeah, I don't exactly know what Star Trek's position or take on AI is. I think it really depends on like the writer and the message that they're trying to
Well, the
convey.
overall take I think is again anything that where humans don't give up their judgment and their, you know what I mean, like where
There
human.
is
Go ahead.
there is a thing to be said about programming, right?
Hmm.
Because in some of the examples you give, it's a fully sentient AI, and if it's fully sentient, then in the same way I can talk to you and reason with you, and then we can come to maybe a conclusion that isn't necessarily me murdering you.
Wouldn't it be cool if we could all do what
But if
Captain Kirk did and just like kill all the AIs by arguing with it?
Yeah, exactly, right. But if it's a program and it's programmed to harvest a brain, you know what I mean? If that's the way it's programmed, then I mean either you can reprogram it, or you just can't, and you just turn it off. You know what I mean? There's no in between. Um, but if it is
Yeah.
fully sentient or conscious in the way that, let's say, data is, then you can kind of argue with it and get its opinion and try to change its opinion or its vision.
We didn't talk about this, but Arthur brings up a good point. Go ahead.
I do also want to say it's funny because Gene Roddenberry established something about enhancements, genetic enhancements, in humans. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing. You know what I mean? Like genetically altering humans is a slippery slope. And if you do so to a degree, then you might lose humanity. And I feel like doing like AI is kind of the same thing.
If you
If
rely on
you
it fully to
if you
make,
lean too much into it, then
you're
yes,
gonna,
like what is left?
what is left. That's a good point. All AI needs Asimov's robotic guidelines or guide laws built in, but we still may get Hal that would go off the rails trying to follow its orders. That's the thing, it's funny. I do like the laws of robotics. I think that's true. I hope that these, AI moguls are programming the laws of robotics, or at least they're trying to into these models and things like that. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Um, you know,
We live in a world where like US congressmen will ask if TikTok needs to connect to the Wi-Fi in order to work. You want to, no, like, you know what I mean? So the companies and the corporations making, generative AI models or whatever it is, and creating, like, they could program whatever the hell they want into the programs that they're making. And
there's no one overseeing what they're doing at
there's
the moment,
no
and it
we
doesn't
need an
help.
we need an we need an overseer,
We need a
essentially.
lot of oversight, not just one person, or but we need more education also, because I think, like, and I know this from working with various clients in the kind of like tech training part of my life. When I deal with older clients and I'm, showing them how they can use these tools and things like that, they're so baffled by how it works. And it's
Mm.
like, it's just like magic to them. And I think that's the thing, is that, like, there is a generational shift occurring. Our generation tends to understand these things better, but there's going to be technologies that come down the pike that one day will be just like those, 60, 70, 80, 90 year olds that are like, oh wow, this is like magic. I don't know how this works at all. Like, do you need my
I
Wi-Fi?
do
You
think
We're going to
that
be like that at one
I
point too.
okay, I do think there's a difference though, because we come from an era that has seen a lot and a lot of change.
Yeah, we actually
We've
understand
experienced before and
the before
after.
times, yeah, as it's
Whereas
called, yeah.
some people that are a bit older now, they like, I don't know how, like, they didn't go through the changes so much. Like, it's difficult to describe. People that still have, the regular landline phones at home, You know what I mean? Of course, it's going to be difficult to try to like have them interpret or understand, machine learning
Mhm.
and how it can be applied in like a day-to-day
Yeah, they
life,
didn't grow up watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, which taught you everything you needed to know about
Yeah, I know,
computers.
right?
Yeah.
Like they should be playing that. They should be playing that shit in hospitals, so the people you're born, you watch TNG, you know what's going on. But
We're
yeah,
yeah, it's
I
true.
don't think we'll be as lost. Um, but that being said, I think there's too many buttons on my TV.
You mean
So
on your remote, on your TV remote, right? Because there's only
yeah,
one
no,
button. There's only one button on the TV. It's an on and off switch
no, but
nowadays. It's a
on the
yeah,
remote, there's too many
right,
functions.
right.
It's a smart TV. There's too many functions. I don't want it. I don't want like I don't use them.
I want a dumb TV. I want to change the channel with buttons.
Well, I don't want to create. I don't want to create an account because I bought a
No,
new
it's
laptop. You know what
it's
I mean?
true. It's true. That's the other thing is password fatigue. I have password account and
Yeah,
password fatigue.
I don't want to set the timer on my toaster. I just want to put my toast in and I want it to pop. Because it's
But I
done.
but I think to wrap up and to close our
I don't want
discussion.
AI to figure out how the optimal toasting.
That's the other thing. Just to go back on that, I wish you could turn off. I wish we had the choice as consumers to just turn off all the recommendation algorithms. Just turn them off. Like, give me the raw feed. Let me decide what I'm interested and what I'm not interested in. I don't need an algorithm to give me recommendations. You know what I mean? But
We've talked about this before. I want a numberless YouTube.
right, right. That's
I
right.
want a YouTube that has no views. You know, shown to me, no thumbs ups, no thumbs downs, no stars, no nothing. Just it's the videos. And I genuinely believe that my experience and my interpretation of those videos would be very changed because I'm pretty sure. So I don't follow the trends. So maybe I'm a bit of a contrarian, but I genuinely believe that sometimes I might click away from videos because they feel clickbait or they feel too trendy to me, and
Hmm.
maybe I would be interested in watching them, but because they're trying to push them in my face, I will divert. So I think that like a numberless YouTube would be interesting as an experiment. I wonder how it would change my experience.
It's a really good experiment. You know what? We could build a browser that hides all that, and
Maybe there's an add-on or an extension
or
that
an
could be
extension that could do
created.
that nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Who knows? But um, but I guess to close out, I think
You could use
overwhelmingly,
AI to code one.
it's coming with Safari. I don't know. You don't keep up with Mac, but Safari's going to let you build with natural language. You can create extensions that do all kinds of things. So it's coming. You might get your dreams answered. And I do think Apple is a little more
I
ethical with
I will
their
say
stuff.
one I will say one thing, okay? Now over these past maybe how long has it been? 2, 3 years, maybe 4 years, we've been talking about AI and all of this. Um, Before that, I was always saying that the end goal is to make the computer. And when I saw Google, because people would always say, Google's stealing your info. They're trying to figure out what you're looking at, where you're going, what you're doing, this and that. And it was like, I'm okay. I have nothing to hide. It's okay. I don't, you know. And I know that all of these platforms have been analyzing our search, patterns and everything. And ultimately, I thought, well, if the objective is to make a computer eventually, then that's really cool. Now I don't know what to think. I'm a bit more worried than I was before.
I think Star Trek overwhelmingly teaches us that what happens is overwhelmingly shows us that whenever technology is positive, it's because humans have control and autonomy and use it as a way to, just like we would use a hammer or any other tool, just a way
Hmm.
to build, to create, to do positive things with it, to use
You can
our.
also kill someone with a hammer,
You
right?
can
Like,
exactly.
but that's
Um,
not why it was made.
and Gene Roddenberry in the Star Trek universe, Gene Roddenberry supposed that humans matured to the point where we knew we just inherently would use these tools in an ethical way, the majority of us, like that we wouldn't have the desire to use them poorly, and we would never implement technology that would harm anyone. So I think it's true that, unfortunately, reality is the opposite. We now have somehow, this boon in technology, but we as a species have not matured to understand how to use it positively. We're still too greedy as a species. We're still too flawed, if you will. You know what I mean? It's like the focus. We're Ferengi. like like
At the
this is
moment, yeah, very
at the
much.
moment we're Ferengi, and we're not yet. That we haven't reached the potential that humans have before they got this technology. Because
It's such a human way to say it, though, because I agree with you in such a nonchalant way, and we belittle the Ferengi culture, so nonchalantly.
yeah, yeah, and
We
actually, that's
we
a
we
great episode where Quark kind of
we judge them so
fights
easily.
back on that. But I think so. That's the thing, is now we have to pray that we catch up with our ethics, catch up, or that at least the resistance to it is going to force the hand of the people in charge.
Resist.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing we still have. I think, ultimately, we like I always say this as a joke, but it's kind of serious. Is like we can just break the damn stuff, like if it gets too out of control, it's like we just destroy it, and like
No, no, absolutely. You
it's
can
like it,
unplug it, right?
yeah, unplug it. So it'll be interesting. The Chinese curse, or the curse of may you live in interesting times, is upon us. But I'm here with you, Toddy, and I'm glad you're here with with me in these interesting times. And thank you to the audience that was viewing, our live audience, Arthur and Joel, and anyone else. If you do end up watching this, please share your thoughts and tell us what you think in the comments section. Like and subscribe. You can go subscribe to Toddy's channel, Trek on the Tube. It's got
You
some great
can.
stuff in the archives. You can.
You don't need to, but you can.
I had a great time reconnecting with you. I want to end this so we can catch up personally after as well, if you've got some
Ooh.
times. But I hope you'll come back and we'll have further discussions. Audience, let us know if there was anything that you'd like us to do another one of these discussions. We'd be happy to do so. And then until then, live long and prosper, and we will see you next time. Oh, I didn't end it correctly. Here we go.
Live long and prosper.